where you value yourself, your self-worth, and even self-love is going to be reflected in how you charge. Are you a light worker struggling to grow your income? Are you a spiritual entrepreneur who has conflicts about charging more for the things that you do because it doesn't feel like you should be charging anything at all? That's what I want to talk about here, how to actually raise your prices and raise your self-worth, and why we should all be doing that as a collective for these conscious products and services that we're doing, how it's actually going to expand everything and move the economy in the direction in the entire world in the direction of this ascended level of consciousness, because everything is supporting it, even in the 3D level. And here's what's really crazy to me, to be honest with you. I know people who are spiritual entrepreneurs and those who run businesses like this, without a drop of a hat, they're buying gas and they're paying for health insurance and they're paying for all these things, and they'll hire an attorney that needs to do some service for them to amend a document, $500 an hour. It's like people are just fine with paying for things into the old military industrial complex because that's just how it is in the world, apparently. For example, I spend a lot on health insurance that I never even use. Anytime I ever do go to see a practitioner, it's a holistic or a natural or more spiritual approach that I have to pay out of pocket. But the point is, if we recognize that shift and we actually start putting more value into these spiritual conscious services and these businesses, the entire economy and world will actually shift as well. Things like this can be covered by insurance, for example, right? There's just a lot of things that absolutely can shift if we choose to, but currently light workers don't value themselves enough, and they see a dissonance in them charging and whether they should not. There's a big conflict there. And that kind of goes to the conflict of, can you be spiritual and wealthy? Or is that something that fights against one another? A lot of religious texts could claim that that's not true if you have a certain interpretation. But you can also have the interpretation that being spiritual and wealthy are the same thing, because as an aspect of oneness of source, there is an abundance. The universe is literally expanding that we live in. There's an abundance of anything and everything that can go around. And as a conscious creator, you can choose to create an expanded pie for everyone, right? Because whenever you have more expansion for yourself, you can create more of that for others. It's just disheartening to me whenever I see a Reiki master or someone who is doing sound healings or, creating meditations and things, and they're just asking for donations, or they're charging $10 or like $50 a month, or it's really, really, really inexpensive, even though they're providing incredible, life-changing and soul-changing type of experiences for people. And I think that, again, I know that this stems from the idea that we shouldn't be holding and putting around barriers to the truth. It needs to be easily accessible. It absolutely does. And with the internet now, of course, it's amazing. Anyone can find anything that they need. We put out a lot of videos and meditations, and we have free programs at U-Transform, where we want to help people create tremendous change for free. And then we also have signature programs where you can go way deeper. You have a coach who actually holds your hand, holds you accountable, and changes you, helps you change and transform your life to manifest your destiny, which is worth way more than anything we would even charge for it anyway. But it's recognizing that of course we don't want to put up barriers around disseminating the truth of things, but whenever we're adding all this value and whenever there's an energetic exchange happening, there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting something in return. Now, I understand in a very highly evolved spiritual society where, it's quite a bit different from Earth right now, currency or money might not be needed. I mean, it's just a form of energetic exchange, of course, but in the way that the world does currently operate with resources and, energy and food and water and shelter and material items, and it is an intermediary, money is. So it's an energetic exchange that can be used as an intermediary. And so we don't need to see it as something evil. We can see it as a tool of expansion for the good that we're doing in the world. So it's just what sort of perspective you're choosing to place on it. So let's talk about why you should raise your prices. For one, the more value that's placed on conscious spiritual products and services, the more prosperity expands and grows for everyone in the entire economy, right? And in the right area. Like, do you support buying GMOs and, unhealthy foods, or are you supporting organic farmers and things, right? We're tending, if you're watching this video, I imagine that you do. You're more awake and conscious and aware. So we've made shifts. We're starting to make shifts in the food industry and maybe a little bit in the area of energy, but not very quickly. So there's some shifts that are being made, but what about in other areas of our lives, right? Even things like health and wellness and education and all of this. A lot of people are still going to, old school institutions, you could say, quite literally, and paying large amounts of money and getting into debt, even though they could very well learn from a different type of teacher. A new paradigmatic shift in education is happening. So it's just recognizing the more that you charge as well for what you're doing, the more prosperity and seriousness that was going to be taken into the expansion in this area of the economy. And this is all about raising your self-worth first and valuing yourself. Where you value yourself, your self-worth and even self-love is going to be reflected in how you charge. You're not charging like you're making someone pay you. Literally, it's just the universe is passing through the abundance. It's being circulated back to you via that person. They're just a channel for it. It's not like I'm charging you $3,000 for this. No, the universe is allowing it to come through you to me. I'm inhabiting prosperity consciousness. There is reciprocity happening. And remember the law of circulation. So many spiritual entrepreneurs, so many light workers, they're so giving and it's so amazing. They're so giving and they're so giving, they're so giving, and then they burn out and they're not able to give as much as they would like because they're not refilling their cup up, right? You need energy, you need it to come back through you. Just like a trickling stream. If it's just water being sent out always, it's going to dry up. But if water is coming back through the other side, it's going to get deeper and expand into a creek and into a rushing river. And that's what you need to remember whenever it comes to charging or raising your prices and increasing your abundance in that way. Not feeling bad, like, oh, I'm actually making someone pay something. I don't know if they're going to have the money for it. You having them step up and step into their own self-worth and self-value expands them as well as it happens. So sometimes, maybe you've noticed this, if you've purchased a coaching program or you've gone to a live event or something and you had to really put out some money for that, it expands you. It's not like, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It actually took you to another level, you could say. So to raise your own self-worth, recognize what value you place on others. Because I see this a lot. Those who don't charge very much for their spiritual services, for example, they're on YouTube. They're looking for like free ebook audios on YouTube. They're looking for all, the guided meditations. There's a lot of amazing stuff on YouTube and on the internet. I'm not saying there's a problem with that. It's just they're like, oh, is there a way that I can access this without ever paying this person anything? And even if they've been watching someone on YouTube for years or getting all their free programs and everything, maybe never sending a donation or paying for anything. It's like, what value do you place on others? I mean, do you have an issue paying, $100 for some of their meditations in a book? Or that value that you place on others will be reflected within yourself. And the more you value others, and just anything that you do, if you hire contractors for your business and you barely pay them anything and you like to keep them as low cost as possible, and even if they go over a little bit, you don't recognize that and pay them extra, like that's the value that you're placing on yourself as well. The more that you give out to others, the more value you place on them, it's going to be reflected back. Of course, recognizing limiting beliefs such as, I can't be like spiritually aligned and wealthy. I can't be spiritually aligned and abundant. It's not supposed to work that way. That's not right. So recognizing that that's a limiting belief and that that's something that you can actually work on and override with affirmations and with lots of other tools. And ultimately as well, it all comes down to working to serve. And by that I just mean I live life on purpose. I'm doing this because I know I'm supposed to. I'm not doing it just to make money. I don't work with a new transformed just because I'm trying to make a certain amount of money. I know because I'm inhabiting prosperity consciousness and I know that I am wealthy and I'm abundant, that will happen. And this is a vehicle by which it can happen. It's one vehicle that it can come to me. That's not why I'm doing it. So it's just remembering what you do is because you love, and it's because you're doing that to serve others, but you're not making it wrong to receive an energetic exchange for what you're doing for them. Hopefully this was helpful. Looking forward to hearing any comments you guys have, and I'll see you next time.